Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to our next session, it's indeed my honor to call upon MMA India's co-chair and Chief Executive Officer of Group M South Asia, the visionary himself, Mr. Prasant Kumar, for his welcome address and opening remarks. Let's give Mr. Kumar a warm round of applause as we welcome him.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, a very warm welcome to this Impact India event, which is happening in Bombay. We actually have two events happening. One is in Bombay and one is in Delhi. As Monica gave a detailed, in her address speech, I think the most important thing when you look at from an ecosystem standpoint is the ability to form a community, exchange views, exchange learning, look at how, especially in a context where it is ever evolving and the landscape is quite dynamic, on how we can help each other to shape the market in a very progressive manner. And that is exactly what MMA stands for. We have quite a good bunch of, industry leaders who are practitioners. We constantly exchange the learning between us. There are sub-communities which are formed, which focuses on multiple aspects in this evolving landscape. A lot of it is also effort to look at frameworks that can be useful for multiple marketers in the journey. I found very exciting when it's also put into practice. A lot of people put in abundant efforts to come and share the trends that is happening in the market, whether it is from an AI perspective or data or any of the aspects that's coming on. And it's quite an active community, right? And I must thank the board to continuously be at it and also challenge, at every point to see how can we improve from today to a better tomorrow in how our efforts are really designed to get something progressive for a learning as well as outcome for each brand, right? It's also important to state that MMA stands also for recognizing great work, right? So it's not just only, efforts and data and frameworks alone, but it also appreciates from the fact that anybody in the community or ecosystem is able to come with a great work we should recognize, and that's something which MMA has been continuously at it. I think Monica and the team has been, quite busy through the year, right? And in helping each of these, tasks to come into life. And this is one of those events where we take a lot of time and effort to design and also get some of the industry leaders to come and exchange their views, right? So once again, a big warm welcome again. Hoping to see some interesting conversations going on. I know always it's a bit difficult in the morning to come along, but I'm sure that the room will be full of people to understand as well as exchange. And the topic is also very interesting. We all know that it's not a word which needs any introduction, but I think the utility of it, how is the progress on that, is something which I think the entire day will actually talk about, right? So thank you, thanks for coming, and have a lovely day. Thank you.
Well, it's always great, as the industry, of course, popularly knows him as PK, and when he joins us on stage and addresses from the podium, it's always going to be a great way to start. Let's give Mr. Kumar a big round of applause. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. And I think we've not had enough of him, and of course, we're going to be requesting for our next session. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about AI marketing maturity model, life stages, and the Indian context. We're looking at exploring the strategic AI implementations in marketing. We're also looking at learning from the use cases, and of course, what is our pivotal theme, is how does the innovation and integrations, which is happening in the AI front, keeps these organizations competitive and forward-thinking. I think on this pivotal topic, it is indeed an honor to invite our speakers on stage. Let's give a big, big round of applause once again to the MMA India co-chair and Chief Executive Officer of Group M South Asia, Mr. Prasant Kumar, along with, ladies and gentlemen, the Chief Strategy Officer, WPP India and President Group M South Asia, Mr. Tushar Vyas. And of course, we have the dynamic anchor on CNBC TV 18, Shivani Gharat, who's going to be joining us and helping us to curate. Let's give her a warm round of applause as well. So well, with that, Ms. Gharat, we'll request you on the left, of course, so that you can take the conversation forward. Over to you.
Definitely. And I loved Monica's presentation and the way in which she said that let's get comfortable with gray, because that's what AI has been all about over the past couple of years. You know, when we heard the term, you know, how rapidly it has evolved over the past couple of months in itself. It has engulfed us in many ways, and we've seen many companies implementing AI into their day-to-day services, into their products over the past couple of months. Just before the panel discussion, when I caught up with Tushar and PK, I was discussing how, like a chairman of a big tech company I interviewed, I had the privilege of interviewing like a couple of months ago last year, said that AI will change, you know, how we interact with our devices in many ways. And one of the ways is that our interaction with our devices and with technology will shift from search to ask. And it has been only like a couple of months since that conversation has happened, and it's already that I'm doing it on my devices that I interact with. So how is it impacting our business, the advertising and marketing business? So we are discussing that. What is the kind of maturity level in terms of adoption of AI and understanding the technology is, you know, what we are going to discuss today. So let's begin this conversation with you, PK. You meet clients and marketers from different sectors. What are some of the conversations that you're having with these clients and marketers? You know, what are they asking you about, you know, AI and usage of AI in marketing?
Yeah, thanks, Shivani. I mean, definitely it's in varied forms and quite interesting forms also. As I said, you know, earlier, that the subject of AI is not new, right? And it's also true that, you know, it's probably discussed and practiced in multiple varied forms in different industries. And when you meet clients for their business, you know, the subject can also go into how they can improve their business, not just from marketing perspective. So the discussions happen in multiple folds. I think 2-3 areas. I think a lot of questions are on the aspect of, you know, how do you use it? Where does it help, right? Whether it's in the area of effectiveness, or whether it's in the area of how do we do it, right? In the context of the data and tech and architecture, and how do we get ready with that? And what are some of the, you know, aspects that we're able to, you know, also demonstrate in terms of getting ready for that? A lot of curiosity. You know, if you have a CFO in the room, the question comes is, so what is it at? What is the cost of it? Or it can even mean that, okay, therefore, what business incremental can you get, right? So I've got various questions on this. But I must say that you know, this subject is anyway been spoken in, we also spoke about that earlier, that spoken in multiple forms and multiple forums. But I think the progress is happening, and we see many clients opening up to not just experiment, it's a journey, and therefore really invest their time to look into it, so we can see that happening. There are also clients who, you know, who are really looking at, you know, focusing by putting a task team to really crack it. Because I think there is a belief that while technology is something which is enhancing most of the aspects on marketing, and there's a belief that being AI ready gives you a competitive advantage,
right? We can see that in many clients. And we see that when the belief happens, a lot more effort and a lot more focus on how to shape it up, happens.
Yeah. And are there any watch outs that they are concerned about as well? Since I'm speaking to you about how our clients are reacting to this technology.
Yeah, see, so the concerns are mainly on, the usage of it and, the boundaries of usage of it. So governance, compliance, becomes extremely critical because it's a tool, it's a way of working, and, it should also not something that, it's a constant improvisation model which needs a lot more attention, right? So mainly that is one concern. And how to ensure that each of these readiness actually happens on time, and how people can be ready for it. So even from a skilling perspective, right? So these are concerns which will be there across any practice. But
Anything new that comes up for that matter.
yeah, anything new that comes. So we see that these are all aspects of how you're really wanting to use that.
Sure.
And people have progressed on that, some of the examples. And we see that progressive as an industry itself.
Sure, sure. Over to you, Tushar. I was, reading up on one particular survey that Group M had done, and that survey said, and very interesting stat. This really caught my eye. 70% of the marketers or your clients, I'm talking about a global survey that Group M had come up with, are interested about AI, are curious about the technology, but only 4% feel confident that they have the right skills to apply it in their strategies. So what do you have to say on that? And at this point, then what role does an entity like Group M play, in hand holding these clients to be more confident about AI going forward?
Yeah, I guess that's where the partnership like us will come in play. And I'm going to talk about a broader WP level. And also, let me give example of WP in terms of what we are doing to us, and in turn, basically, what we are helping to client achieve their goals, right? And since we are talking about a maturity model, it's good to talk about the pillars in terms of how we are looking at it, right? So our starting point is what we are calling is the Intelligent Marketing OS, operating system, WEP Open. And today more than 35,000 people use across WEP, right? So that's a sort of at scale implementation of AI capability and how it gets integrated into sort of day-to-day working of our sort of thousands of people and delivering services to client, right? So that becomes a one key pillar for us. Then sort of productizing some of these, and there are a few areas which we are developing our own layer, be it in terms of what we're calling brains, which is supporting brand, which is supporting audience, channel selection, or any of the optimization kind of thing, right? So that's a sort of our own proprietary layer which is sitting on top of that. There's a right amount of data you need to connect, data from ecosystem, data from clients, so that becomes another pillar in terms of how to work with the ecosystem, how you are creating a right ecosystem, quality ecosystem. So it generates something which is enterprise grade and not necessarily a sort of amateurish. The fourth is, and PK touch upon, it's a many people's concern, right? How do you train sort of a whole lot of people? So what we have done is we created a future readiness academy. So that's sort of available to all our employees in terms of learning AI in a sort of day-to-day implementation, right? So how do we, in a way, it's like raising a floor kind of thing. How do we get at a scale? And there are people also getting trained into specialized skills also. So we run a program with Side School of Business, and also it's a leadership to all the level, implementation level. There is a sort of training initiative which is running. And finally, partnership, and some of this sort of you also mentioned. So we have been working with NVIDIA, Google, Microsoft, all these big guys in sort of building something which is for the industry, for our setup client. And again, there is a spectrum, right? So there are also foundational model, but there are also a lot of startup activity within happening. So we are working across all spectrum to drive this. So these are like 5 pillars which we are building to in a way transform our business as well as help
Yeah,
our
and,
clients.
and on that note, since you mentioned partnerships, WPP did a partnership with Google Cloud. Last year, they announced a partnership with NVIDIA at Computex around same time last year. So how has that helped you deploy AI faster within the organization?
Yeah. And again, some of this partnership has been sort of running for many years, right? So in a way, you can say WP has been active for more than sort of 2017 onward in this space. So there's a lot of work which has gone in the sort of AI stack. NVIDIA specifically in terms of content generation at a scale, right? And again, what I mentioned is enterprise-grade content generation at a scale. So that's the work happening. And we started lending multiple projects for a client in that domain.
In the past, in agencies, within agencies, we know that there used to be a chief technology officer, but of late, and WPP does have a chief AI officer. On that note, PK, I want to ask you, on an everyday basis, how has generative AI transformed traditional workflows within Group M?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'll probably start with the way you asked the question, right? I feel it's not anymore having only one chief technology officer. I think in today's life, it's quite an exciting landscape, highly evolving landscape. Many more solutions, many more factors to be considered, and quite challenging, and as I said, very exciting as well. So the angle of technology is something which everybody, I mean, in our personal life, I mean, you started with that, right? Devices and stuff. In our professional life, I think the angle of technology adds in a lot more excitement to learn better, to apply it faster, right? All of that comes in. And when you look at from our perspective, I think, as Tushar mentioned, this journey has been there for quite a long time. And we can see that, when we look at from an aspect of deployment of media, right? How Copilot, which is one of our tools, actually helps us from the context of, with more precision of reaching consumers appropriately, right? So, learning about the consumer, insights on that, deploying it and targeting them, using AI to that is what one aspect happens. So, that's something which we, actively use it in every single campaign. That allows us to be more, more precise on targeting audiences. So the time is spent on more studying the audience and therefore deploying it and targeting them, right? So that's one way to, the turnaround time become faster. It can be real time. It can be also better insights. So all of it comes on, and that's the utility we see from Copilot as such. The second aspect, I think Tushar touched about that, which is about customizing content, right? And again, from a cohort basis, today you're not restricted to have only limited content, right? And again, insights of consumer, insights on communication, how cohorts behave, and therefore coming out with multiple content and targeting those content into multiple cohorts. All of that, again, the technology helps, right? Again, some of it are co-created, some of it are through partners, but we see that evolution happening as we speak. The third element is, we have these triple M projects which we do to understand deployment of media spends into multiple media and the effectiveness of that for each advertiser, right? So we do that. But at the same time, collection of data, insights helps us to make those projects, much more enhanced. And that helps us, in big way. To look at large portfolio and specific categories to address some answers on that. And I think from the question, I think it's also important about helping the readiness, not and constantly improvisation. So when it comes to talent, I think Tushar touched upon that. When it comes to readiness from our own clients' basis, right? Data architecture readiness, or technology readiness. So we spend a lot amount of time on that because it's equally important to, before we start appreciating and start claiming that things are working. I think the readiness aspect has to be mutually done, because all of this is done to understand the consumer better, to reach the consumer better, and therefore outcomes are better for what you spend.
What is the biggest challenge that AI has solved for at Group M according to you? I mean, look at this year, 2024. For example, there is elections. There is going to be there is IPL. There is going to be a T20 World Cup which is on. Busy times for media investment company like Group M. So how is it solving any of the challenges there?
Yeah, so it's a journey. I think there are three areas. I think a lot of this, which I spoke about earlier in terms of the tool, etc., helps us having an appropriate way of continuous learning and deployment. Right? I think in our campaign management, it has helped us a lot. I mean, we have seen, especially post-pandemic, how digital spends have been skewing, a lot more factors and variables coming into it. They're all data which is available. And it's only appropriate that these data are put into practice of learning and application of that, which is what I think at Group M, we've extensively practiced that. We've got a team at Nexus, which is on ensuring expertise across platforms, multi-platforms, cross-channel optimization, etc., where all of this technology are used. And we continuously, developing that. That's one area. I think the other area is in our consulting practices, how we have tried to look at some of the learning, including the content and insights, right? So these are clearly areas which have come up. I also sense, it's not about only efficiency. I know this question may lead to that, right? And has Group M been able to create efficiency? I think efficiency in time, definitely, right? So people are able to think better. People are able to look at multiple other areas. I mean, it's not anymore a very linear 5 media, plans, right? There are multiple factors coming. So people are able to spend time on that, take learning on that, cross apply onto multiple others. So all of that, I think, brings in a lot more ability to do better, what you're doing today from a tomorrow's aspect. So all of that has been very useful.
Speaking of efficiency, and I was going to come to you, Tushar. Speaking of efficiency, even the marketers and the clients know that AI is like an efficient tool. It will help you get that efficiency out of like your investment. Are there any pressures from the client side to probably like for faster outcomes or for cost reductions? At all?
Yeah, can I build on what the speaker said before I move to the point you asked, right? And sort of broadly, I want to put in terms of where it is helping in 3 buckets. So one is, in terms of imagination. And I would like to call out some of the example, right? For example, what work Mondelez has done or what Coke has done in terms of, there's a new way of engaging consumer where the AI is playing an integral part of the communication, right? So it's creating a newer touch point, which in a pre-AI era was not possible, and driving that level of personalization, that level of empathy connect. So that's a sort of one big bucket which we are looking at. Second bucket is in terms of, assist and augmentation. I'm just broadly putting it, right? In terms of how do we help our, people, our workforce do work more efficiently and work better, right? In terms of inspiration, assisting, and day-to-day work and stuff like that. So that's a sort of broadly a second bucket, and that's where your efficiency story comes into play. And the third bucket is basically, I would say, broadly into optimization. So there are certain tasks which was not humanly possible. And that's where, media, for example, many examples comes into play. You are doing a multiple iteration, be it in terms of solving a problem which is a complex, right? So right point, right message. So dynamic content optimization, or looking at hundreds of cohort and customizing your content. So again, these are some of the problem which was partly unsolved or maybe not fully solved, and that's the third bucket which AI is coming into, right? So it's a sum total. It's a new way of looking at things, as well as the how better we sort of execute and perform what we have been doing. So it's a mix of both. And your efficiency story is just a part of that, right? It's not a full story. And that's a point I just also wanted to make here.
Yeah, so I'll just add on. We're not definitely escaping the question of are there pressures, right? I think today the world where in a way, high growth, low cost is the formula, right? And pressure is there across every, right? And that's also because of the context of, where do you find the source of growth, where can you improvise, etc. and on. And we believe that technology has the ability to make things even, improvised in an improvised manner and effective manner. Now you call it efficiency, you call it effective. I think it's value, right? And it gives, so everybody wants a better value. Everybody wants to maximize value. I think the power of technology is really helping to build on that, right? And now you're able to finish a job faster, which means you have time and to think about how do I improve the quality, right? You're able to, do a job with, let's say, instead of 10 people, probably 8 people, the other 2 focus on something else, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity. And ours is an ecosystem where every day we have something new happening. Every day there is something new happening. And definitely, therefore, our ability to, focus on how do I learn continuously and how do I pick it up and use it for my next campaign. It's a continuous journey. So we see that while the pressures may be there for everyone, I think it's a good conversation to have. And sometimes it happens that investment comes first, and maybe the outcomes is a derivative, right? And in most of the cases, that's why I said the CFO point, that what's the cost of it? So you got to invest first, right? And you have to get things ready. And after that, yeah, it can be even more better, from what you are today. So I think these conversations are, really useful. I don't think it's in a very specific, only one-sided manner. I think there's the interest because we see this subject of AI not just playing into marketing. We see this subject playing in logistics, medical industry, BFSI industry, right? And we as an individual is part of the journey, even when you want to keep your profession aside, right, on a day-to-day life. So we see and we believe that this is something which is going to useful to us and very meaningful to us, right? So that's what it is.
So, since you mentioned it's a journey and the space is ever evolving. Having said that, what are some of the things that marketers should keep in mind to stay ahead in this journey?
Yeah, I said earlier, I believe that, a marketer who probably is a continuous technology applicant, who applies it, as well as ready to experiment and take faster learning and also be AI ready is going to be having a very high competitive advantage in the years to come. So first point is that. I think definitely it'll add to the edge to any marketer, right? I think clients, they're quite conscious about the space and the subject. So ability to imbibe the culture of how we want to do it. A lot of it goes from the data strategy, right? Because if there is no data and there is no insights, right? So how are we able to manage that? Now I'm coming to the ground usage of this, right? So you need data for their own data. You need to be open to look at learning from multiple other cohorts of data, which are all possible, in today's life. A lot of tech architecture, focus on that. How can I get ready on that, right? I think a lot of it comes from their ability to formulate the task team, including the governance and compliance team, to look at some of the areas of what are the do's and don'ts, and continuously be at it, right? A lot of effort on skilling the people, right? So that the dialogue can be on. So therefore, that is a very important point. Both of us have been speaking on that. It's not just for us, it's also from the marketer's side. And ability to appreciate that and learn it and then relearn it and use it, right? So I think all of this comes together as a package for a client, right?
And Tushar, what are some of the building blocks for ensuring organization move towards AI maturity?
Can I show one example? Tanya, can I have one slide? I just wanted to take an example of WP, just build it. Yeah. Once. It's coming back.
Yes.
Next one.
Okay.
sorry, I think the bottom row is not visible, but basically, the bottommost is a sort of foundation kind of thing. So it gives in terms of right design, right access, and one of my colleagues in UK calls it a more like a library card effect. So basically, right amount of AI available when you need it with the sort of right capability. So that's a builder sort of foundation. And the access which PK talk about, and there's a various type of data, right? So there is what we know, what our client know, what is available in the public information. And also we work with multiple set of partners, which is giving access to sort of various set of data, be it a category, be it a consumer, so all kind of stuff. Then the middle layer is something which we have productized AI layer, and these are again our industry context, right? So brand is our context, category, audiences, how you optimize. So these are our context. We created a 4-layer, and that's again critical part, right? So using a foundation model is like a, it's something which creates a good quality, but not necessarily always enterprise grade quality, right? So there is each industry will have some amount of a productization which is required, and this is our sort of work in that domain. Then we are creating a client-specific workspace because some of these are going to be a model trained for a specific client, so it's not something which is generic. So there is a sort of tonality of a brand. There is something which is intrinsic to brand is sort of capture. Just to give example, Monica has run some of the slides, some of the images, and I'm sure this is like a generic foundation model image, but if it was trained on a MMA guideline, the image output would have been very, very different than what you saw in the first slide, right? And finally, how do we integrate into workflow, right? It's not like bringing people to AI, but the way people are working, how do we bring the AI capability into that? So there's a creative studio, production studio. So we map our workflow, and within that, how do we sort of integrate our capabilities? So this is how we are looking at a tier structure. So right amount of augmentation, assisting, which happens to all our employee and delivering the solution to client.
Yeah, just to add, it's very encouraging that already there are brands, clients, using the platform. And, the constant learning is helping us to improvise on that. So, this actually is the, proof of the pudding of, when you say it, even at Group M or WPP overall, how these are put into practice and how we are able to, get to some larger and better outcomes.
Sure. And final thoughts before we go, PK, let's first ask you this. What, according to you, will be your vision for the future of advertising and marketing with AI going forward?
I think everything starts with a primary goal. And me as a practitioner, I would like to ensure that I'm able to progress my customers, outcomes, and I'm able to be objective to the task that my customer has always given me, right? I think, and if I'm able to improve every campaign, right, better than the previous one, I think I'll be quite excited with that, right? And therefore, I think the most important thing is that the more of us actually start practicing this, I think the industry itself will get benefited out of that, right? So we can exchange our views, exchange our learning. It can be from any particular part of the ecosystem. So the vision is that let's embrace the the change and embrace the newer aspects. Experiment it, learn it. I don't think it's boring, but at the same time have some fun. So definitely that's what personally I'm looking at.
Dare to have some fun with AI. Tushar, your vision?
I guess the change is not new to industry, right? We have gone through a few cycles multiple times. But one thing keeps changing is the pace of change and some of the contours of the change. And that's where, innovation is required, right? So innovation to lead within that space, innovation to relevant, innovation to keep providing a value to our customers. So I think that level of agility and a focus which is required. And every day is like a new me. So you have to keep reinventing yourself. You have to reinventing what you're doing. So that's a sort of critical part, according to me.
Yes. So uncertainty is the only constant in the advertising and marketing, and you should have, or you should dare to experiment with this AI going forward. Thank you so much. Thank you, PK. Thanks, Tushar. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Shivani.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a fabulous session it has been. Let's give them a big, big round of applause. And thank you so much for joining us. We'd also like the opportunity of calling upon Devika Sharma, VP and GM India in Mobi, to kindly join us and help us with a token of appreciation from our side to all our leaders. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this session spoke about the generative AI scope ahead, the collaboration Group M has been doing to further the acceptance of AI in marketing, the challenges which AI has, of course, solved for Group M with being an efficient tool. We're going to be requesting Devika to further help us in felicitating our guests of honor. Shivani, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, a big, big round of applause for the curator of this conversation, of course. Thank you so much, PK, and thank you, Tushar, for joining us today on that. And when you have likes of Prashant Kumar, and Tushar Vyas, we couldn't have had a better start. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're going to be requesting all of them for a group photograph. And PK, if you can just hold the plaque, otherwise it won't be a complete picture. All right. And I think it's only going to be complete if you give them a big, big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you so much. We'd also like a certain level of goodies, which is only going to make your day better. So let's get that in place as well. PK, you might just want to grab it for the moment and... All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for being so kind with your time. Thank you.